What is horror? No idea if I'm in shot, that's horror. But I need it on the external microphone, so that's where I'm going to stay. I think I'm going to be safely in shot here. Camera's usually the other way around so I can see. But this is a video response to Nate from the Gaming Shack, love your stuff. And also from Geordie Slasher Gamer, I think is the guy that started this, and I've watched yours as well. Love the very different take on what is horror. I'm going to stick to games. I could talk about movies till the cows come home, but I'm going to stick to games. Yep, let's go straight into it. And I think what Nate said is really on point. It's a very personal thing. I think it should be kept to what is horror within the accepted genre of horror and the subgenres. When you start getting into other things, I mean, essentially what is horror is, or what horror is anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Well, I could be watching a medical program like 999 Ambulance or whatever it is. That may make me feel uncomfortable, but it's not horror. So I think within the accepted genre of horror and its subgenres like sci-fi horror and slasher and all that kind of stuff, supernatural horror, then within that, what you personally find horrifying is what defines horror for you. So in terms of horror games, for me, it's quite interesting because you might come across a horror franchise. Most people think of Resident Evil. Now the original on the original PlayStation was definitely a horror game. You get into some of the later ones, and maybe because the whole zombie genre, which is a subgenre in itself, has been so overdone, some of those get into just what I would call zombie action games or zombie shooter games or whatever. So they might not necessarily be horror, and maybe that's because the zombies has been so overdone that we're now used to it. They're not horrifying, in fact they're comical, is essentially how we view them now. So I want to sort of break that down a little bit. I think the first, well, other than early stuff like the first Resident Evil on the PlayStation, the first real horror game that I really got into and really enjoyed was Fear. And I played that on the PS3, and then after the Xbox 360, and after my original Xbox 360 Red Ring, that I moved on to PS3, I played through 2 and 3, which I think the whole trilogy is absolutely fantastic, both as first-person shooters, but also as games within the horror genre. They are fantastic games, and a lot of games do cross over like that. I don't have hard copies of those, I don't have physical copies, and similarly, let me just grab something from the shelf. I don't have, I'm going to wave this as a prompt, but what I'm really thinking of here, and I need to buy another copy, I've got it from GOG, but Wolfenstein Return to Castle Wolfenstein, so not the original, but Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which is from the Pentium 4, call it Windows XP era. It starts off as a really nicely done Second World War first-person shooter, and it slides, as soon as you get to the level which is the catacombs, it slides into that supernatural Nazi occult experimentation, supernatural horror genre, and things get, and this is where I'm getting to, things get genuinely uncomfortable, and that is when I find myself playing a horror game. When I'm uncomfortable, I know I'm playing a horror game. Let's look at some other games that fall into that category. The Last of Us. There are definitely moments towards the beginning of this when you're finding out what's going on that are horrifying, that make you uncomfortable. So this is the remastered version for PS4. I would rate that there. The pickings that I've got at the moment in my current collection are slim, but it gives me lots of other sort of stuff to talk about. Aliens Colonial Marines, I would not say, I'm holding this up as an example of what is not. Similar to the movies, Aliens Colonial Marines, which is, I think, an underrated game. It's not the best game because it could have been done better with the technology available at the time, which is why it got slated. The main character that you play has the same exact name as me, and that makes this fantastic. Plus, I loved Aliens, and you know what? As a narrative, as an interactive movie extension, I really enjoyed going through this. But is it a horror? No, I don't think this is a horror. However, Alien Isolation absolutely is. This game, again, is uncomfortable. This game needs a VR remake. But if you haven't played it and you are a fan of the Alien franchise in terms of the movies, I would swear this is the best game that's been properly licensed within that franchise that has ever been created. Alien vs Predator games, they were fun, but they weren't horror. This takes you right back to the horror feeling of that first movie and extends it into a game. Absolutely stunning, stunning piece of great game creation. Fantastic. Let's talk about Doom. That's a funny one to pick, isn't it? Now, the original Doom and Doom 2, depends how you played them. And that's a whole other video. But I certainly don't think they are properly classed as a horror. They're more of a, you know, sci-fi / supernatural run and gun shooter is what they actually are. And I would say the same of this, which is Doom 2016, which goes back to, but with modern graphics. And Doom Eternal, which I haven't played, but I understand follows this along closely. Same kind of ethos. Run and gun shooting. Not really a concentration on building the tension, making you stop and think about your next move. Your next move is basically get more health, get more ammo. So not a horror. But let's talk about the runt of the litter when we talk about the Doom franchise. Doom 3. Doom 3 was not well received. And I'll tell you why it's not well received. Because fans of the originals were expecting a run and gun shooter, and they're scared of the dark. They're pussies. That's why, okay? Put my neck on the line now. Yup. They couldn't handle the fact that it wasn't a run and gun shooter anymore. It had gone on a slant of what the original Doom could have been if the technology had been available at the time, and it created that reality of a sci-fi sliding into supernatural. Keeping in mind, ID came up with the Wolfenstein franchise as well. Same thing. Starts off run and gun shooter and slides into this supernatural horror scenario. And that's exactly what Doom 3 does in spades. Especially the original version where you could only have your torch or your gun. You had to choose, can I see in the dark or can I shoot at things I can't see in the dark? You had to make that conscious strategic decision. Fantastic at building the tension and pushing you through. There are times on the original Doom 3 I had to literally stop playing because I was uncomfortable and I didn't want to move on. This is Doom 3 on the PS4 VR edition, and so you know me, just like with my last video response, it's not enough to just talk about it. I want to demonstrate what horror is. Let's play some Doom 3 VR and then I'll stop this video. Because you have to see what it's like. Keeping in mind this is in full 3D, surrounding my vision as much as this thing does, and full stereoscopic, so I've got depth. I know you're not going to capture that. You'll just see what's on the screen there. But this is horror. No, it isn't when I can't get the damn thing on. What have I done now? There we go. When you're faced with a corridor and you don't know what's down it, I'm looking down that corridor, but I'm trying to look at you, but I can't see you now. I'm going to get rid of that barrel for a start. Oh no, I might use that. Now on this version you can have, and same on other later versions, you can have torch and gunner. Like, what the heck is that? Why are these friggin' legless baby things with wings coming at me? And why do I never have enough ammo and equip? God, flipping heck. This is... Oh! Damn it. health, armour. Bloody hell. Uh-oh. Shit. Ah. Ah! No, not a pistol. I should have reloaded. Oh, damn it. No. Ah. And I'm dead. Look at that. That was genuine. Get your heart pumping, get the heckles on your back up. That's horror. That's uncomfortable. That's horror.